doing yard work, been working out, and slinging some
old man things. That's what I'm talking about.
Slinging some self-defense protection, talking ball, training QBs. You name it, we're living in it.
Yeah, that's kind of. Carrie asked me, well, "What time are you leaving Saturday morning?" I said, "Pretty early." Oh, well, the kids have a birthday party. I was trying to see if maybe I can't remember what she needed to do. I was like, I'll start taking the kids back to birthday parties in January.
How about
no? I hit my quota back in July. I'm out.
The wife says anything to me this morning. She's like, well, that's why I was kind of wondering, what our schedule was for Saturday. Because every weekend she says she's got a lot of things to do around the house, and sometimes we do get it done. Sometimes we deviate, but yet again, this happens. And I'm like, how about no? Let me know what I need to get to do between now and the time we go to the high school game, our kids' high school game Friday night, and I will gladly try to squeeze it in. But I feel your pain there.
Yeah. What's the schedule for Saturday? I don't know. Wake up and it's college football. Nothing else. That's the schedule. All right.
College football starts tonight, fellas. Just
5 straight days. Yeah, 5 in a row.
And I am being a good boy because she was sick this week, and we're not going out tonight for that because we usually celebrate that. So I'm staying at home just to save up my goodwill for Saturday. So I couldn't believe that conversation.
Yeah. Perry, you remember when we used to go out on Thursday nights? I remember college. JC still goes out on Thursday nights. I hadn't been out on a Thursday night in 10 years.
Oh man, you're missing out. Thursday's the unofficial start of the week.
Jeez,
yeah,
even when there's not 5 days.
In college during the off season, like in the winter.
Yeah,
let me tell you, Thursday night, the only thing that kept you from getting completely horizontal was the Friday morning workout. So
that's a good point. Yeah, for you, not for guys like me. I didn't care.
Yeah. So I mean, when Friday morning workouts were canceled or postponed after lunch, yeah, it was pedal to the metal, full tilt.
Starting Saturday, pedal to the metal, Carolina football. Finally, Perry, it's back. We get to actually talk about a football game this week, my man, and I am just beyond excited to watch this team go out and play. A lot of, you feel like you've learned a lot here in the preseason. I know you've been in there and watched some scrimmage and been around some practices and those things. But at the same time, although we know the competition has increased at every single position on the field, there's just still a lot of unknowns. We just still feel like we have a lot of unknowns, and I think that's just because we haven't seen them play, right?
Receiver.
Okay.
I've been thinking a lot about. The receiver position. That's my biggest unknown. I know people want to say quarterback. Well, I know what Sellers is capable of doing. I would say receiver position, offensive play calling. How are they going to use him? How is Ashford going to come in and run the football, which he needs to? Defensively, I'm looking to see, is this defensive line as good as advertised? We've heard all camp. Defensive lines dominating, offensive lines having a hard time blocking them. Dylan Stewart is a stud. Let's see it. Let's see it in action in front of a full crowd. I just can't wait to be back in Willie B. The last game that we had there as a team and as a fan, was a Clemson game. It was cold. It was an awful showing, unfortunately, offensively. Unfortunately lost to our rival. So getting that taste out of, our mouth as fans and players, but more importantly, it's a new season. This is the greatest time of the year. This weekend from Thursday through Monday night is just the best, best week, one of the best weekends of the year. So it'll be good to get the Cocks back in Willie B.
Not for that team in the upstate because they're going to lose by 40 points. Perry, this ODU team comes to town and almost mimics the offense that Josh Heupel has in Knoxville with Tennessee. Now, is the talent level the same? Well, of course not. But they do have a bunch of transfers. JC pointed this out earlier when we spoke with Harry Minium, who's excellent with ODUsports.com, about how many Power 5 guys are at Old Dominion and how many of those Power 5 guys actually can play football. They're not just a bunch of scrubs who are sitting around and that's where they landed. These guys are pretty good. They've got got a dual threat quarterback, and he was sacked 52 times last year, so they had similar problems to the Gamecocks, but hopefully they've cleaned those up. All right, so with game one, right? You're always working the kinks out. It's going to be hot on Saturday, Perry. You're going to be trying to shovel guys in and out of there. We know they're probably going to see 10, 12 guys up front on the defensive line for the Gamecocks from the edge position to the tackle, which is neat. But you got an offense that wants to get down the field and boot, scoot, and boogie on you. So what do you expect to see early in the ball game?
No, we can't have those big plays. I want to see, as far as defense, I want to see, like I've said, defensive line in good discipline on the back end. And what I mean by that is not letting people just fly by you. And, with that Heupel type offense, they're going to look for their matchups to take shots down the field, right? If you want to score, you got to try to score. And, if we can't contain quarterbacks that can wiggle around and make plays with their legs, those plays where the guy sneaks out of the pocket and hits somebody down the field, those are tough to defend. And so being disciplined, tackling well, on the two things in game one, you always look for on defense. You look for how are we going to tackle, especially in space, and offensively, are we going to take care of the football? Are we going to make good decisions in the pass game? And are we going to hold on to the ball? Those are the two main things that you really – scrimmages are good. They're important, but they're not games. There's just a little bit different about a game. Obviously the crowd, but just the whole atmosphere. Those are two of the hot buttons that I'm intrigued to watch. Not so much matchup because I don't know many of the players on Old Dominion, right?
Sure.
It's new season, but those two overarching things. Whoever does that the best will win the ball game, and I think it's pretty cut and dry.
By the way, I really appreciate your comments there in referencing two American classics. You don't score until you score, as said by Steve Stifler in American Pie, and then also hold on to the ball. It reminds me of the great coach out there and Remember the Titans. You hold on to that ball, Petey. So wonderful way to get that stuff in there.
You're welcome.
It's a lot of talent.
I would say I agree. Perry read my mind.
About Stifler?
No. About the defensive backs. The concern, I think South Carolina's got a very good secondary this year.
They do. Especially
at safety. I don't think sticky coverage is necessarily the three safety strengths, and you got new corners. In an offense like this, especially if Grant Wilson, the quarterback for ODU, can buy time, it is their receivers do create creative. I think there's going to be some mistakes, and I don't think it's going to be indicative. It's going to be indicative more about the style of play of ODU and the quarterback making plays and first game mistakes than it is of oh my God, they're not going to have a good defense. But that's kind of what I got my eye on. If Old Dominion's going to make it a game, I think that could be problematic just because it's the first game and you're not always sounded. I think there will be nerves and stuff. So we'll see what happens. But I'm with you, Perry. Coverage in the secondary, something I have circled.
Well, JC, let's talk about it for a second. So you've got the way that they play offense, okay? They're going to, and if they're like Heupel, and I haven't watched a bunch of film, but I'm taking a stab. If they're like Heupel, they're going to have really wide splits, right, at receiver. They're going to be between the numbers and the hash on the number ones. Number twos are going to be a few yards inside the numbers. Right. So they're going to create space. They're going to use the field to create leverage on our defense. The big thing that Tennessee has done really well is those switch routes, right? They'll take the outside guys, send them in, inside guys, send them out, and then do some type of in or out breaking combination or some type of rub with man coverage. And what I really liked at the end of last season with the three safety defense is that it keeps everything in front. And also you have the three defensive line. Well, what we did even last year with that look, we actually held up pretty good against the run, both against Clemson and Kentucky. And when you're having 8 guys drop into coverage with the potential of that fourth rusher, which then turns into 7 guys, it's really tough on a quarterback when you drop back and there looks like there's 9 guys on defense and you still feel like you're getting pressed in the pocket. We're able to do that, man. We're going to be in good position, not only Saturday, but for the, the season moving forward. But I mean, you guys know, you never really know who you are until you play the first game. And if you go back, and I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and I want you guys, we can open discussion this. Go back to the North Carolina game last year. Was the North Carolina game the team that we saw about mid-third quarter, virtually the same team throughout the remainder of the year, more or less? A few changes here or there.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, we're going to figure out who we are pretty quickly, even against an ODU, right? Like, that's why I said last week is when we run the football, I want to see push. Because if we can't get push on Old Dominion, we are damn sure not going to do it against Kentucky and LSU and Clemson and all, the gauntlet of teams that we play. But I remember when we played, oh my God, it was a couple years ago, opening game. There was a lesser team. And we were really struggling getting our double teams and actually getting some movement.
Eastern Illinois.
Yes, thank you. And I'm sitting there like, that's not a game one blunder. We're missing something there. And, we never really seemed to take that next step. But we get the line moving, doing the different, both gap, having good mix up of gap in zone, running the QB, making making the defense play 11 on 11. I like our chance. Our chance to be good running the ball.
You kind of led me right into my next question, which is by the same token. I mean, if you struggle to block ODU, it's going to be hell on wheels next week in Lexington with Walker and those guys. So, I mean, what is an easy answer? What are you looking for? Well, you want to see the offensive line get pushed. You want to see them dominate. You want to avoid penalties. But what specifically, knowing the personnel like you do, knowing what a train wreck it was last year, which was exposed heavily in that Tar Heel game, what are you hoping to see on Saturday that says to you, okay, now this is an O-line that we can do some damage with in the SEC?
Okay. Number one is on zone run plays. I would love to see double teams work into next level, right? That's how zone blocking works, right? You have, let's call it the guard in the, we'll go guard tackle duo to play side backer, right? So one's got to stick to the line. The next has got to work up to the second level on zone. I would love to see that, right? With that double team creating movement so the guy can then slip off to the second level. On gap scheme, it's truly creating the hole that you're running into. For instance, if you're running power to the right, you're down blocking, and then you take that backside guard, whether he turns up or he's kicking out, whatever type of power that we run, you want to see that hole created. You don't want to see somebody slip through a double team and the guy that's pulling whiff on that apex, or not apex, but that end man on the line of scrimmage, right? You want to see good collisions, create the hole so the running back actually has a hole to run through. Now, if he's met there in the hole with a linebacker, that's a different story, but somebody would have then missed the block. But I think instead of us just, like the blind side blocking the guys into the bleachers, right? I want to see good contact where blocks are being made, which creates space for these guys to run into, right? Mm-hmm. I don't care if you've got Barry Sanders in the backfield. If he's getting hit before he passes that line of scrimmage, he doesn't have enough momentum to get going to create those explosive plays that we look for in the run game. So those would be the two things on the two styles of run that we see.
How much different is it? So one of the things that they did this year, Perry, early in camp, as you know, is they identified what they felt like was their best five, and they've kind of kept those guys together as opposed to cycling dudes in and out, trying to find this combo and that combo, having to deal with all the injuries. These five actually have been practicing together on the first team for a while. Yeah. And they feel fairly confident that they've gotten it right going into the season. But Josiah Thompson, of course, is going to get his first action this weekend as a college football player. Torricelli Simpkins, Kamar Bell, they come in. They're going to be first-time starters here at South Carolina, but coming from Florida Atlantic via Auburn for Bell, Simpkins coming from North Carolina A&T. They've played teams like Old Dominion, of course. But when it comes to pass pro and being able to block the run, like what is the common eye, the fan that is sitting in the stands? What are you looking for in one versus the other to try to determine what is best for this football team? Because you're going to be calling plays off of what you can and can't do up front, right? So how does the common eye see that?
Well, I mean, the eye, they say this all the time when you watch film, the eye in the sky doesn't lie, right? So whatever you're putting on tape, like you can lie to yourself mentally, but you can't lie with your eyes with what you see. And it's really the same thing from a play caller standpoint. If you're running the football and you're making those good collisioned contact blocks where people aren't slipping off of you and making tackles, or if you're throwing the football and you're pass setting and guys are keeping their hands in their frame and not getting beat in and around, you're going to then lean into whatever it is that you're doing. But I do want to touch on the importance of the five playing together, which is why when injuries happen, you need to understand when injuries happen on the offensive line and you're playing Russian roulette with people on the line, man, that's a bear. It's a bear for a quarterback. It's a bear for everybody involved because communications are different, right? When you develop that chemistry from the center to the guard to the tackle, they're able to communicate things in a certain way that they're comfortable. Not only the way, because everybody pulls differently, right? They might have a different feel on a double team, right? Or whatever the case might be. The togetherness and the dynamics of a five solid group offensive line that is used to playing with one another, you're going to be better off that way than if you're mixing guys in, even though individually you might have certain players here and there that are more talented here and there. But if you have one common group of five that plays together, you're going to have a better outcome. But then, when you talk on the pass game, you can really, really help your pass protection when you run the quarterback. And then also when the quarterback has the ability to make plays to go from inside the pocket to outside the pocket, teams are not so hell-bent on just up the field, right? They're rushing, but it's a more controlled, like keeping my hands here so I can go left to right. Well, when people are doing that, it gives the offensive line more opportunity to square up, keep the defender in front of them, which in turn is going to allow the quarterback to have more time to throw, which is just better overall, right? Mm-hmm. So I'll be intrigued to see what Lenoris really, really looks like in live competition, one-on-one, ones versus ones, I should say, and what his ability to scramble and improvise looks like, because that's going to be a huge, mark my words. I know that sounds, very, very, I guess, stereotypical of someone to say, dual threat core, but his ability to scramble and make plays is going to help us tremendously until we find a true number one.
What's important for him in this game? All about playing on the road in the SEC. It once took you from the 15-minute mark in the third quarter to the 4-minute mark in the third quarter just to run all the way down the field. That 66-yarder. Remember, it took you almost 11 minutes to get down there, which we still have the tape of that.
Flying.
What is it? Yeah, we need to bring that bump back, Phil. We've still got that bump somewhere.
Yeah, I got it around here somewhere.
So, but what is important? Like, what will you be focused on in watching Lenoris Sellers, understanding the importance of the game in Lexington next weekend, being on the road, first SEC game, kind of a barometer game, a little bit, right? A little bit of a barometer game in the SEC. So as you watch him this weekend and trying to digest how he has developed and how he develops in game number one, like, what are you, Perry Orth, the quarterback and the quarterback coach, focused on?
Decision making. It's not even a question. How does he take care of the football? Not only with decision making with throwing the ball, but when does he decide to tuck it and run? When does he decide to scramble out of the pocket? When does he decide to climb up in and then get out? Where's his decision making at this stage of his career? And are we going to put him in? Are we going to put him in the best chance for him to succeed? My advice to Lenoris would be, dude, play your game. You've played football your entire life. Don't go trying to change anything because you're in the SEC. Do what you do. Do what you've done at South Florence. He wasn't one of those to run around and do all flips and back hurdles in the backfield and then turn and launch. I mean, he was pretty cleaned up. Coach Ramon has done a solid job with him. And he needs to do what he does. He needs to play his game. He needs to take care of the football and don't Don't take the world of pressure of this game, of you being, QB1 of your in-state school. Just go play football. It's no different. I said this the other day here in Columbia, is that football at this level is really, it's not any different than it was in high school. You're just playing against better talent. Now you have better talent around you as well. So don't make it bigger than it already is. It's just a football game. Take care of the ball. Just keep moving the chains, and good things are going to happen.
Final couple of thoughts here. This segment brought to you every week by protectwithbear.com. That is right to bear for the responsible, right, Perry, for the responsible gun owner. As low as $15 a month. We'll let him fill in the gaps here in just a minute as to what Perry does in his day job and why this is important for Americans all over the country and the world that we live in. But you can head to protectwithbear.com to educate yourself in the time being. To kind of summarize week 1, game 1, finally arriving for the fans, we want to put it in layman's terms for people like me who are just a bunch of idiots and we're just out there watching football, right? What are your keys to the game? Maybe not necessarily to win the game, because you don't know much about Old Dominion. I don't really mean it that way, but kind of your keys to the game for South Carolina, looking at their strengths, understanding their weaknesses, the top 3 or 4 things maybe you'll keep an eye on, and anything we haven't hit on that you're hoping to see on Saturday.
Just reiterating the same points. Take care of the football on offense, and I want to see the run game. I want to see it thrive, because if we're going to have a good team, we're going to have to run the ball well. It's just plain and simple with all parties: Ashford, Sellers, Rocket, everybody. Then number 2, defensive line. I want to see if they're as good as advertised. And then piggybacking on what JC said, this is a good secondary. Are we going to give up just big plays and blunders because it's game 1? Or are we actually going to be the experienced group that we are? So excited to see that. If we are as good as advertised on the D-line and our secondary plays like the veterans they are, we should handle ODU pretty good.
Boys, anything? Any parting shots for Perry here? Nothing?
Perry has convinced me already to change my pick on the Salsaritas Fab 5. I'm going over 135 yards rushing, Perry.
You're going to go over?
130. Yards rushing.
That's all right. I mean,
Perry's explanation of the zone blocking scheme.
I loved
establishing the run. I was a little bit on the fence on that. Perry has taken me over. This is what we call late insider information. This is how these guys.
Well, I don't have any insider information, but what I do have is that we haven't had a game yet, so it's nothing but optimism. Right.
Yeah.
I'm ready for a 15-0 national championship. I mean, you never know. Nick Harbor might be Calvin Johnson in waiting. He's just been waiting for the games to start. So
go route, first drive. Give me a 9
Right.
with Harbor.
I'll remind everyone, Sidney Rice did not start the opener in 2005, and Alshon Jeffrey did not start the opener in 2009 either. So.
Yeah. Hey, who's your guy? Who's your guy? You've seen him play. I mean, if you had to pick a wide receiver today to start your Gamecock fantasy football team with, based on who you've seen, I don't know if you want to go that far. I know you know some of these guys, but who stood out?
I told you last week, Josh Brown.
Jared Brown.
Jared Brown. Not Josh.
And lo and behold, he's starting and not an or.
Yeah. That's right. So you've got Jared. I've got JC. You're a Jacobs guy. You're with Dre Jacobs.
He's also starting without an or.
Said Brown.
Man, I had the opportunity to go to one scrimmage. I'm not going to talk about all the in depths of what I saw. I did see number 14 shine though.
If correct, when I asked that last week, you said Brown on receptions and you said Simon on touchdown receptions. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah.
Hey, how much?
JB froze up when he was making a point.
Right here,
no!
Just like yesterday.
Right at the finish line.
That's all right.
Well, remember, my internet went out at exactly 1:58 every day for a long time.
It did for like a week.
Perry,
and a half.
we'll wrap it up with you, man. Thanks so much, bud.
Yeah, man.
Have a great time this weekend, man. I know as a new father, you probably are looking forward to popping that first cold one this weekend.
There will be many of those. Garcia picking up Garcia at the airport in about an hour. So,
Lord,
wow.
Well, have a blast, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Perry.